Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us here on this Sunday morning on Gulfstream today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Acacia Courtney, and well, we're rounding things out for the Gulfstream Park Championship meet. Of course, yesterday was the Grade 1 Florida Derby. We had a lot of exciting races on tap, including the Florida Oaks, Acacia. But as we get to today, still a lot of excitement as we do have that mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six. We'll get to that momentarily. You and I actually handicapped it a couple days in advance, and I didn't think many key scratches in the sequence today.
No, maybe just one in the last leg, and we'll update you on all of those scratches, but it is not an easy sequence today, but everything must go. We have that mandatory payout, and so definitely want to get in on that. We totally crushed the guarantee yesterday for that $2 million, so a huge carryover in the Rainbow Six today. Definitely something that you don't want to miss out on.
Absolutely not. We'll try to help guide you through it here this afternoon, but wanted to backtrack to yesterday afternoon and starting with the Florida Oaks, or Gulfstream Oaks, excuse me. We'll take a look at that performance and actually the stretch run, and very, very impressive performance from Salty. She just continues to kind of build on her previous performances, and the preliminary buyer that she did get was an 88 buyer speed figure, but she had a sustained run pretty much from the backstretch to the finish.
Well, it was interesting because we were watching this race from the winner's circle, and it was kind of an early move on her, and it ended up being the right move because she got out in front of the rest of the field, and I thought a very impressive performance from her. She actually did end up really winning that easily. Kind of looking at some of the other contenders in there, we did see Nana Bella be pretty worked up before the race, and Salty, having just broken her maiden, not really knowing exactly what she was capable of. She really did prove a lot, I thought, yesterday.
She absolutely did. I thought that was a pretty impressive performance there as we turn our attention to the Grade 1 Florida Derby. And Todd Pletcher going into the Florida Derby just saying that he had a lot of confidence with Always Dreaming. And, well, I would imagine that Todd Pletcher knows a good horse when he sees one. Always Dreaming, really getting a perfect setup, just kind of stalking from off of the leaders. A great ride under Johnny Velasquez, but he really proved his talent on the big stage yesterday.
He really did, and it was interesting because we kept trying to figure out what the pace scenario is going to be, and the number 10, 3 Rules was the main pace setter. I actually was impressed with State of Honor along the rail, coming back really to get second, and you can see Guinevere, the 11, the favorite, closing on the outside just a bit too late, but very impressive from Always Dreaming, actually the fastest time in the Florida Derby since Alidar's race.
It was a very fast race, very fast track overall yesterday afternoon. And looking at some of Todd Pletcher's contenders, he's got a bevy of horses going to the Kentucky Derby potentially, but Always Dreaming seems to be one of the most talented ones. Of course, Taprit, a lot of buzz behind that horse. Looking on Twitter this morning, it does appear that One Liner's probably going to go to the Arkansas Derby. Battalion Runner's probably going to go to the Wood, as what he kind of mentioned going into the Florida Derby. So very interesting. Of course, outside of Florida, we did have other Derby preps in the Louisiana Derby. We saw Gervin get the victory for Joe Sharp. That must be a really exciting time for them too.
Absolutely, and talking about Todd Pletcher, he had Patch finishing second in the Louisiana Derby as well, but Gervin has really stamped himself as the main contender. Really nice run from him yesterday, and we're just getting kind of close now. I guess about a month until that first Saturday in May when we will see the Kentucky Derby, and there's been a lot of ups and downs already this season. Interestingly enough, we've mentioned this several times, Todd Pletcher just won for 45 record in the Kentucky Derby, but he does have some very strong contenders, and I was very impressed by Always Dreaming yesterday.
And I don't think that you can hold Guinevere's defeat against him too much. You could see him making that grinding move, but just kind of running in place almost, as Always Dreaming really did get the perfect setup. But as he said, State of Honor coming back after ceding his position, I thought was pretty impressive. But moving forward, I think Guinevere, he should be in good shape going into the Kentucky Derby. Now, looking to this afternoon, we do want to again mention that today is a mandatory payout in that 20-cent Rainbow Six. Everything must go including myself. I said this yesterday. Unfortunately, this is my last time on the morning show here during the winter meet at Gulfstream. I'll be sad to go, but I'll be happier leaving with some money because we're going to take this thing down.
Yes, we're going to try. We're going to play the Rainbow Six today, but we will miss you. Our last day with Gabby. It's been a fantastic meet and always been a lot of fun every day. Ron Nicoletti and I will still be here. We'll see you back on Wednesday for live racing at 12:35 p.m. But today, we have that business to take care of at hand.
Exactly. So let's get to that business here, and we start things off in the opener with our wagering menu, and that is the Rolling Super High Five. That's a $1 bet of races with 7 or more horses in. Race 1 also kicks off the early pick 5, races 1 through 5. Acacia will have a ticket for that. And race 6, I don't know what I just said there. In race 6, the Rainbow Six does start, and we do have that $1.9 million carryover today. Again, the mandatory payout. That's races 6 through 11. The 7th race on the card does kick off the 50-cent late pick 5 as well. Acacia will look at that too. We'll talk about the pick 6 in more detail when the race does come up. Race 6, of course, we are fast and firm on the turf, and it's kind of a warm day here in South Florida, but beautiful conditions here on the turf and the main track. We've got 11 races with a first post set for 12:35 p.m. And of course, as usual, we'll start off with your early pick 5.
We'll take a look at the early pick 5 sequence, give you a look at my ticket, just $48. I was not able to single in either of the sequences today. We mentioned that it's not easy to hit, but we will take a try. So 2 by 2 by 2, spreading in the 4th race with 4 horses in there. I think that's a pretty competitive maiden race, and then using 3 deep in the 5th, $48.
I like it. Nice $48 play there, and I'm kind of laughing inside because you used the 5 and the 8. I went with the 1 and the 2 as my top 2 selections in here, but that just goes to show you this card.
Yes.
And it's very difficult. It's just kind of horses coming from all different backgrounds and places, so it's a very competitive card here, and thank you for showing us there your early pick 5. But you did land on the number 5 in here, Breach of Duty. Acacia only using 2 horses in the first leg of the pick 5.
I did, and I was looking around at this first leg, and you do bring up some good points that it is kind of tough to narrow in because sometimes you have horses that come out of these 6250 claimers that are used to beating each other. Then you have horses that are maybe cutting back in distance or dropping in class or changing barns, and that's kind of what you have in this opener. So I went with the 5, Breach of Duty, who is 9-2 on the morning line. First time in the barn for Sean Creaky, and you can see first off the claim maybe is not on paper looks like the strongest numbers for the barn, but he hasn't really claimed that many horses, and he actually has really had some sharp claims lately. So I don't think that you can go off of that. And this horse last time out, I thought was a pretty good performance behind Killing Them Softly, who we know is the speed of the speed. This horse is a 4-time winner at the distance. It's just 1 for 10 at Gulfstream, but I think that she's got some real back class, and she can sit just behind the speed.
Well, it seems like the old phrase that good horses usually make their own trips, and unfortunately this mare, she just has not been able to break cleanly, and that's kind of been detrimental to her in the afternoon. So that's where I took a little bit of the pause, but she's a 4-time winner at this distance. I think one to definitely respect. I use her in 4th. Now the one Dancing Cool, I like the cutback in distance for her. The mile seemed a little bit slow, but she was also impacted by those slow fractions going the mile. So now she cuts back to this open condition, and I thought that she has run well when she can break and if she gets that pace in front of her. And Taylor Priscelli, a horse you used in 4th, she actually hasn't really done anything wrong in her past couple of starts. She seems to be in very good form. I was a little bit apprehensive of her when she won and then was disqualified, but she came back and won, and then I thought a decent performance last time out with a little bit of trouble.
It was. She was boxed in a bit. That was against the non-winners of 3, so now she is stepping up to face this open company. It is a little little bit of a step up in class for these horses that have, again, really been facing this open company already. I did have some interest to the outside in the 8 Lady Master apprentice Nikki Figueroa in the saddle. Got quite a bit of speed and won nicely last time out.
We'll take a look at the second race on the card. It's a 62.50 non-winners of 3 lifetime claiming event, 1-turn mile on the main track. And we'll go back and show you a spotlight replay of the number 2, Fletcher is Golden. Now, Madrus is the morning line favorite in here, but just looking at Fletcher is Golden here in the Midwest Silks, if we could roll it. And he kind of makes this wide move here, kind of outside of horses. Of course, he's kind of 4 or 5 wide going into the final turn. Out in the center of the racetrack, we can see him here. And what I noticed about this performance was it really was a 2-horse race coming down the stretch. They're just battling back and forth, and I thought that this was a very game performance by Fletcher is Golden, although he was strongly urged to get the victory, I will say that. But the fact that he was so game to beat that horse, I like him coming back against non-winners of 3. I just think the connections have put him in the right position when he wins, of course, going a little bit of a distance of ground on the main track and facing this level of competition.
And he certainly didn't like anything about the turf, and he was drawn outside 2 starts back. But you look at how he broke his maiden. Yes, he was bet down 20 cents to the dollar. Yes, it was at a lower level maiden claiming, but he did win by open lengths, and he lived up to that short price. So he came back, and in that non-winners of 2, he was game to get the win, and Armando de la Cerda just had a fantastic championship meet, and a lot of races won with Nick Juarez in the saddle. And we both had interest in the number 6, Friends with K Mill. For me, it was purely on the drop in class. This horse was just beaten by 4 lengths last time out on the turf. If you go back to his last dirt race, it was against 12-5 non-winners of 3 when he finished 4th. So I'm thinking maybe on the class drop, he might be able to stalk in here.
And in looking at the pace scenario as well, we have Magnanimous Mind, who's posted towards the inside. He's been known to show speed going long. Madrus is obviously going to show speed. And Midnight Surfer getting out of distance today. He could be forwardly placed. So that's where I thought that it could set up for Fletcher is Golden, and it could set up for a horse like the 6, Friends with K Mill. So it looks like we're kind of in agreement for the second race as we get to the third. 7.5 furlongs on the turf for this maiden 12,500 event. And I had a tough time with this race because this is a race that so many horses have been beating each other, losing to each other at the maiden 28,000. Obviously not beating each other because it's a maiden race, but it just has been competing against the same level of competition. But I do think feather in the cap of dietitian Michelle is that this is probably one of the easiest fields that she's faced in quite some time.
Absolutely. We did see Reed Nagel get a win yesterday, just kind of running away from the rest of the field at a pretty good price. And dietitian Michelle actually was a pretty okay race last time out. I thought that she finished up just fine to finish 3rd. She was beaten under 2 lengths that day. Jorge Ruiz going to stay in the saddle. She had a couple of trouble trips prior to that, even clipping heels or just being parked really, really wide. And I thought last time when she did get a clean trip, it was a solid performance. I don't think you're going to get the kind of price that you got on her last time, because she does look to really be the class of this field, if you could say that.
I agree, and I also liked the 4 Venezuelan Treasure towards the inside for Bernardo Lopez. I thought that she was severely compromised by her post position last time out. When we're talking about 7.5 furlongs or the mile on the turf, you don't really want to be posted towards the outside, and unfortunately she had no other option but to try to take back and save ground into the first turn. So today, I do think with a better post position, she could probably sit a nice stalking trip, and I do think that that's where she wants to be positioned. So I really like her for exotics. You use the 5 Big Darling instead for the exacta purposes.
And kind of the same thing that you were saying, she's been stuck on the outside in the last 2 starts back when it was a sloppy track rained off of the turf. She was used aggressively from the outside to try and show speed. I don't think that's where she wants to, what she wants to do. I think she wants to get in a little bit of a pocket, and this does look to be a manageable field for her.
All right, we'll move on to the 4th race, a maiden special weight. We're going a mile and an 1/8 on the turf. And we do have a couple of horses making their first or second starts. We, of course, have to respect the number 6 Altruism, who is a second-time starter for Chad Brown. Now, this horse is stepping up in class, but I don't really think it's a huge step up in class. I actually thought that Maiden $75,000 level where he faced was one of the better maiden claiming races. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Too much talking yesterday.
14 races will get you.
Yeah, exactly. So Adonis Creed, of course, we saw him kind of be the runaway winner in that race. He came back to face winners. He won in that starter allowance optional claiming condition. We saw Gilded Warrior went out of that race earlier this week. So I wanted to go back and show you the break from this horse, and I thought that he was highly compromised by the break. Now, he also looked a little bit, I wouldn't say lethargic in the paddock, but you could see that he probably wasn't as primed and ready to go as most Chad Brown runners are. I did not circle him. But we can see him in the back of the pack, and then he finally kind of falls off the screen here. You can see his little chicklet on Trackus down below, and he just kind of maintains one kind of gait, I would say. And then we can see him once again here. He almost refuses to break for momentarily, and then jockey Javier Castellano doing the right thing, showing him the whip, getting him in the game, and immediately trying to save ground going into the first turn. Keisha, what it boils down to is he just looked extremely green first time out. Kind of unusual for a first-time starter for Chad Brown, so you can only think that he's going to improve today.
I totally agree with you. I proceeded with a little bit of caution with him. If you remember on my pick 5 ticket, I did go 4 deep in here because I wanted to use Altruism. It just kind of looked to me like I don't know if hesitated at the start, which is the short comment. I think that he just kind of fell out of the gate, really. Yeah, plopped out of the gate is a good word for it. I don't think he hesitated. I think he just kind of followed along with everybody else. And as you said, Javier trying to just get him in an early position. It probably was a good learning experience for him. And I do think that he comes out of a very strong race. But I did prefer the number 5 Rocketry, who has his own questions as well. He is a second-time starter for trainer Jimmy Jerkins, and he debuted on the turf in a strong maiden special weight race as well. And the interesting thing about that race is that it looked like it was going to be such a strong, such a productive race. And we've seen horses come out of that race and run well. I really haven't seen any impressive winners come out of that race. And so that's where I proceed a little bit hesitantly. But I did think that he made up some ground in there. He kind of got into the game late. And what I preferred about him versus Altruism is that when he did get into the game, it looked like the light bulb kind of clicked a little bit. So maybe both of them just needed a little bit of experience, and it is kind of a similar situation for the two of them, but he's who I did end up landing on.
And the only thing I didn't like about him was that he drew a perfect post position first time out, drew the rail. That's exactly where you want to be, going 7.5 furlongs on the turf. And he just had no gate speed whatsoever. And from there, we actually saw horses making up a decent amount of ground and closing from off of the pace. And we didn't see him make up that much ground, but again, we're grasping at straws. These two horses are, of course, going to improve in their second start. Now, a first-time starter, the 4 Battle Ready, I think you have to respect. He is by Union Rags. He's out of a mare who was a stakes winner going long on the turf. She made about $180,000, and this first-time starter for Todd Pletcher definitely looks, in terms of a work tab, ready to fire, perhaps first time out.
He does. He comes off of a sharp bullet on March 26th at Palm Beach Downs. 4 furlongs and 48 and 2, the fastest of 13. John Velasquez still in town, will be in the saddle today. Of course, they teamed up for a nice win yesterday with Always Dreaming. But on the turf in here, and I did have some interest in the 3 Don't Overlook, who certainly has the benefit of having a race at the distance already, the 9 furlongs on the turf. He did show some speed, 2 starts back at that distance, finishing behind Snap Decision, who did go on to face graded stakes foes.
All right, well, another maiden special weight is up next. That is race 5, but a state-bred maiden special weight, this time on the main track at 7 furlongs. And there are some pretty interesting pedigrees here. You did go with the number 4 Blinding, a second-time starter for Safi Joseph Jr., or I did. You didn't. The 5, driven by Thunder. I'll get to that horse in a second. But again, another one of Todd Pletcher's, Johnny Velasquez here, now getting back to a fast main track after kind of being caught in the mud last time out.
He did, and it's interesting for him because this horse actually debuted at the Maiden $50,000 level at Belmont, and he did go off the favorite. He did finish second behind Sal the Turtle, who was actually proved to be a really nice runner. Then they stepped him up to Maiden Special Weight, obviously having enough confidence in that at Aqueduct, and he was caught in the mud behind Beasley, who's a very strong horse, I thought, and I'm going to be a little bit more forgiving with him. This is a state-bred maiden special weight, so I think that it's kind of comparable, if not even not as strong as the last maiden special weight field that he did face. He does get the blinkers on in here today, and though he was the beaten favorite, again, going to be a little bit more forgiving of him and just think that he finds the right spot today.
He could definitely win this race. I have no solid knocks against him here, but he just hasn't really been handled with a lot of confidence. As we said, he did debut at the maiden and claiming level, but the 4 blinding, my top selection, does come in off of a bit of a freshening there since late January, but you can't really see it from the pan shot, and that's why I didn't show this, and it's also kind of difficult to see from the head-on, but he does get jostled around at the beginning and then just kind of loses his footing, finds himself in the mid-pack. I thought that since then, though, it seemed like a pretty useful first start in that it was educational. And today, now coming into the race, Saffie Joseph Jr., despite that subpar performance, actually still protects him against state-bred maiden special weight company. And it looks like he's improved in his work tab.
His work tab is very strong, and that's what I like about him a lot, too. We did have a couple of next out winners in there at the maiden claiming level as well, or maiden special weight. Sal's Jet and White Smoke did come out to win. So I do think that that is a pretty productive race. I agree the trouble at the start was probably what compromised him a lot. Kind of a long time maiden, 5 starts already is the 2 Ultron for Bill Mott. Does get the blinkers on today. He was actually second behind Unbridled Holiday, who we did see in the Florida Derby yesterday. Last time out, though, he tried the turf, didn't really run, had some trouble, just bumped and steadied kind of all over the place. Gets back to the dirt now. He has a lot of question marks, but I will respect him.
And we've got a horse, first-time starter for Brian Lynch, posted towards the outside, and this horse is actually kin to a horse by the name of Cultimus Prime, who was a stakes winner and actually grade 2 place going long on the dirt. So I kind of looked at this horse, looked at his pedigree, and thinking, well, maybe they're starting him at 7 furlongs to get a good foundation under him and stretching him out to 2 turns maybe, as that's kind of what some of the horses that he's been kin to did, but maybe he meets the right field as a first-time starter.
And this is a field with a lot of questions, for sure. And even the horses that we're liking do have to take a step forward and do have to improve. And I guess that's part of the fun of those maiden special weight races.
Exactly. That is races 1 through 5. We're going to step aside really quickly. And when we come back, we'll tackle the 20-cent Rainbow Six. We've got that $1.9 million carryover today, and everything must go. It's mandatory payout day.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. It's mandatory payout day here at Gulfstream Park. Of course, this is the final day of the championship meet. As we get to the 20-cent Rainbow Six, we've got the $1.9 million carryover, and I did come up with the ticket. Now, mind you, it's a little bit more on the expensive side because it is mandatory payout day, and I wanted to provide a realistic ticket. And realistically, Acacia, you have to put a decent amount of money in order to get through the sequence today. So could not find a single. I thought it was very difficult. I didn't find a single nor did you, nor did Ron Nicoletti. So that's just the kind of card it is today. But going to be using 4 horses to start things off. This is a maiden 12,500 event. Wanted some coverage here as we move along. 3 by 4 by 3, just by 2 in race 10. I could have even used one more horse in there. We'll get to that race momentarily. And then 3 in the finale, 5, 8, 11 for $172.80. Now, I think your ticket might have been $144,
Yep.
and you can actually go online and find that. We handicapped it a couple days prior. That is on YouTube, on our Gulfstream Park YouTube channel. So make sure you go online and check that out. But we will start it off 6.5 furlongs on the dirt for this maiden 12-5 event. And Geisha, the 6th quality A-Rod, we do have a stat here for trainer Mike Maker and with this type of move.
We did. It's a very big drop in class, but Mike Maker in the past 5 years, maiden specialweight to maiden claiming and going from route to sprint. He's strong with this kind of move, no surprise really, but 32% win, 64% in the money, and a positive ROI of $2.40. So this horse, his first 2 races, he faced maiden special weight competition, and he was beaten by double-digit lengths in the last 2. So it is understandable of why he is taking such an aggressive drop in class, because he just hasn't shown up against tougher company.
Okay, well, yes, you have a Mike Maker runner in here. You've got a Bill Mott runner in here. I think 2 connections that you definitely want to use in the first half or first leg of the Rainbow Six. I actually went to the 3 Noble Dave here, who does take another drop in class, and really not a solid performance last time out, but I thought does face a manageable field here for the connections. And I also do like the fact that he's slightly cutting back in distance here today, so maybe making that one move from off of the pace. I'll be using several horses to start things off. We'll move to the 7th race on the card. This does actually kick off the final pick 5 of the day, 7.5 furlongs on the turf for this allowance optional claimer. Acacia, let's see your ticket.
All right, well, it'll be $60 for me for the late pick 5. It is the last day of the championship meet, so I really wanted to spread and use 5 horses in the 8th race. So starting off with 3, going by 5, and then 2, 2, and 2 for $60. Hoping that just using 2 horses in the last 3 legs will get me through. But again, I thought that the 8th race was definitely a spread one.
Okay, and going back and looking at the number 3, Completely Bonkers, we'll show you this video spotlight replay. This was last time out, actually, facing Allowance Company, and we can see he is the number 4 that day. I'm not going to really show you, highlight him, just because well, let's do it since it's here. And he just kind of makes this sustained run from outside of horses here. And honestly, I thought that it set up for him. The 2nd place horse did all the dirty work. That was Al Salal. But we did see Delta Prince, the winner of that race. He came back to finish 2nd in the Grade 3 Appleton yesterday. So overall, I thought that this is a much more manageable field than what he faced last time out.
Absolutely, and it was a huge run for Delta Prince, who does look to be a horse on the upswing. I respected him, but same thing that you said, it did kind of set up for him, and he wasn't able to get a stronger finish last time. I did go with a speed play in the number 2 Steel Sky. We actually saw Edgar Prado yesterday run away from the rest of the field on the front end with a maiden winner in Time to Travel. So hopefully he can do the same thing today with Steel Sky, who I know we've been chasing him for a while. Yes. I just really did think he might be the main speed in here.
I had a tough time with that horse, and obviously I've picked him for like the past couple of starts, and today will be the day that he wins, because I'm not using him actually in the pick 6, although I would suggest using him if you have a bigger bankroll, bigger budget. The 4 Terry's Charm, I just wanted to find a little bit of a price here. And 2 starts back when he was on the turf, I thought that it was a little bit too far as he showed early speed and then just faded. Well beaten in that race, but you look at the field, he was beaten by Patterson Cross, he was beaten by Barack, some 2 very nice horses in here. Prior to that, though, I thought he made a little bit of a better move going shorter distances on the turf, so I do like this spot for him. It seems like a good field. Now the 6 Adventus, I didn't really know what to do with him. Is this more of a last-ditch effort? Obviously this horse had a lot of early talent, but on the dirt.
It was on the dirt. He faced graded stakes company, even trying some Derby prep races in the likes of the Grade 1 Wood Memorial, but he'll try the turf. First time in the barn of Mike Maker as well. I used him in the top 3, but same thing. question marks abound.
We'll get to the 8th race, a maiden $25,000 event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf. And this is one of the few races that you and I actually agree on, and that is with the number 1, Break the Mold. And we'll show you the last race that he does come out of. This was dropping to the maiden $20,000 level, and he's coming out of the gate. Just wanted to show he's actually wearing the yellow blinkers to the outside here with the yellow silks. And the rider that day just really had to use him early, as he did break from post 11 that day. We can see him really getting after him. Now he's kind of perched on the inside. I cannot circle these horses. He's perched on the inside, and he's trying to make like a sustained move from off of the pace here. He hesitated a little bit at the quarter pole, but I thought that he really had full opportunity to run on from there. But we did see Eloy Rod, actually the winner of that race, who was out in the middle, actually not well past the middle of the racetrack.
He was on the other rail.
He was on the outside rail. He actually came back to win a pretty handy race, getting a 79 Beyer speed figure for that victory.
He did, and unfortunately Break the Mold has been stuck outside in his last 2 starts. I think he's got the rail post today. He's stretching out to 2 turns again. He's going to show the improved speed, and that just might be the right spot for him. I had a lot of interest in the 6 Japonski, who has some speed to him as well. Now first off the claim for Rashawn Creaky. He's just a horse that's kind of found trouble in his last couple of starts, and then also using a first-time starter in Senor.
And Efren Loza Jr. does fantastic work with primarily his maiden claimers as first-time starters. So I thought that that was one that you wanted to use. And Arpanella, I really like too, for Jose Garofalo. Unfortunately, this horse has been caught behind 2 Todd Pletcher class droppers in his past 2 starts. Of course, last time out, fact check, was a Todd Pletcher a good class dropper. He wired in a slow pace prior to that. Giant's Voice, same scenario there. So I thought that this horse was coming out of some good races as well. I didn't really know what to do with Slam. I thought that that was a pretty tough post position there, but a race, once again, you wanted to have some coverage in the pick 6. Now the 9th race on the card, this is a maiden 12,500 event, 5.5 furlongs on the main track. And we could see horses win this race that have experience in racing, or it could go to some of these first-time starters, and there's a couple of them in here.
Yes, there are. We both did land on a first-time starter. I actually just used 2 horses in both the pick 5 and pick 6 sequences, using the 7 Cope and the 6 Cindy's Candy. So one a firster, one with experience. And Cope, the dam, was a multiple graded stakes winner. She did win at first asking, and actually Stanley Gold, if you look at first-time starters and maiden claiming on the dirt, it is 2 for 17, but 53% of the time in the money. That doesn't mean it never happens. And just looking at the field that she's going to face at first asking, with that lightweight and Lasix added.
That was my same thought, actually, was that Stanley Gold, he can condition horses to win first time out. It doesn't always happen frequently, but gets in with a lightweight, has a decent pedigree. In terms of winners, or excuse me, horses who have experience, I thought you probably had to use the 5 Bossy Alexandra, just given the tremendous class relief this horse is getting. You just gave that horse a toss.
I did, just because she just hasn't shown up against anything. She has already been exposed against maiden $25,000 types, and she was beaten 13 lengths that day.
10th race on the card kicks off the first half of the late daily double. Now we're going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf for this open $16,000 event. And we'll go back to both Rock Eagle and Starship Zorro's last performance, and wanted to show you actually just from the 3/8 pole to the finish line. Now, Rock Eagle is at the back of the pack. You can't really see that horse, but you can obviously see Starship Zorro forwardly placed. I thought this horse actually made a little bit of an early move in this race on the backstretch, and then just had to come with a sustained run. Now, we also see in the Mike Dubbs silks, Rock Eagle trying to close from off of the pace and not really getting a big seam to go through. But this is where Paco Lopez is best, in creating space for horses to run behind. But once he finally did, unfortunately, he just ran out of real estate. So really, which way do you want to go? Do you want to go with Starship Zorro, who kind of made the lead a bit prematurely, or do you want to go in the direction of Rock Eagle, who probably will get the pace set up today, given the amount of speed in here, but sometimes is compromised by his running style?
I really wish I could have gone way deeper in this race, because I actually didn't even use either of those horses. I was trying to shop for some prices in this race, because I think think that you can. A horse that I don't think will go off as a price, but is a little bit of a price on the morning line is the 4 For All the Marbles, 6-1 right now, but it's Saffie Joseph Jr. first off the claim and John Velasquez in the saddle. He'll probably take a lot of money. We will show a quick stat on Saffie Joseph Jr. in the past year, first off the claim, just kind of highlighting and giving some numbers to what we always talk about. He wins 47% of the time, 59% in the money, and it is a positive ROI. Now, he does have a lot of speed. I thought if there was to be closing, the 3 Bingo Bango Bongo might be overlooked in the wagering and gets a class relief. When he does actually get his mind to it and maybe doesn't dump the rider at the start, he does actually have a lot of talent.
He looks a little bit difficult sometimes, but Bingo Bango Bongo definitely knows how to win here, this old class 9-year-old. So I thought that Rock Eagle, once again, probably would get a good setup, but the 9 Entwistle has a similar running style as Rock Eagle and a huge performance last time out. I thought, though, they did go pretty quickly in front of him. It kind of set up for those closers. I think he might get a similar situation today, though.
It might, and it looks like he's a horse that does really prefer the turf and has got that race locally under his belt now.
The 11th and final race on the card is a $16,000 non-winners of 3 lifetime event, a mile and a 16th onto the turf. And of the scratches today, I thought this probably was one that impacted the field most, and that was the 2 Chivalrous, probably one to figure to take some money. Acacia, I actually used this horse on top, so went back to the drawing board. Going to be using the 11 Browns Gap, second off the layoff here for Saffie Joseph Jr. I thought he broke well, kind of rushed up, sandwiched in between horses, then checked again on the backstretch. A lot to overcome when you're coming off of a layoff since November of 2015.
It was about 16 months since he had raced, and he was also moving back to the turf after a couple of dirt races prior to that layoff. It was a strong performance. He does get some class relief now too and will be forwardly placed. I just thought the number 5 Tiger Paw might even outclass the field. Dropping in class again. He had won on the synthetic in non-winners of 2 Allowance Company 2 starts back. Tried the turf last time. He has been a bit of a money burner, but he is dropping in class, and that's why I just did end up going with him on top in here.
And the 6 Turkomani, I like the stat that you pulled here for trainer Reed Nagel. We'll show you the stat, second off the layoff on the turf over the past 5 years.
And this is out of a sample size of 52 horses, 23% win, 56% in the money, and a 335 ROI. And again, shopping for prices, this is a wide open Rainbow Six sequence, and this horse came off of a 7-month layoff last time, and just I thought maybe needed that race off of the layoff, and could certainly improve today. And Jorge Ruiz, I think, has really impressed this championship meet as a rider, maybe a little bit under the radar.
I agree. I believe he might be staying here throughout the summer, so maybe keep your eyes on him afterwards as well. He's had a pretty good championship meet. But good stat there. I hadn't seen that. It was a good sniff out on your part, perhaps using that horse in the final leg of the 20-cent Rainbow Six. Get tied on. We've got a $1.9 million carryover, and everything must go. It's mandatory payout day here at Gulfstream Park. We're going to step aside, and Pieriello will be up next with those scratches and changes.
We have to take care of these horses that, give us so much joy.
Being accredited by the TAA gives us instant credibility.
People trust us even more than they have before because they know that the TAA has been to all of our locations and that our horses are well cared for.
I mean, this farm wouldn't look the way it is. These horses wouldn't look the way they are if it wasn't for the generosity and the hard work of the Thurp and Aftercare Alliance.
They've united our whole industry in terms of the aftercare movement.
We're all working together for the same purpose.
Discover a unique sanctuary at the Crowne Plaza, Hollywood Beach, a tropical resort offering contemporary comforts, oversized rooms, and a spacious pool. See you at the Crowne Plaza, Hollywood Beach.